Hey guys, on today's Slotcast, we're going to be talking about how to get slot car racing back into the mainstream.
So that's Amanda, I'm Billy. And so I want to point this out to people that you and I are dirty capitalists. So a lot of other stores, Amanda, give me a look. They're like, oh, we're in this to, bring slot cars back into the mainstream and blah, blah, blah. Me and Amanda, we're here to make money. Like, that involves...
Well, when we first started, it was supposed to just be a pastime. We quickly found out we needed to make a change there.
Yeah, we're making, we want to thank everyone for shopping with us. You guys help keep this channel going. Our sales have been up mostly month by month, like pretty much every month but one. We had higher sales, so we're really happy about that. But here's the thing, slot cars used to be like bowling alleys. They used to be everywhere. Celebrities used to play with them. They were being broadcast on the radio or TV or whatever's popular in ancient times. I have no idea what happened back in the day, you know what I mean?
Right, and I swear every time that I'm at the market, there's at least one person who has to bring up, well, there used to be this slot car track here over...
Slot car track there. There's a couple different tracks.
Right. Every time a Kids Fun Fest, people brought it up. And we really do want people to get back into the hobby. Because it's a fun thing to do, right?
And cha-ching. I really feel like slot cars are there. You know what I mean? They're there. They fixed a lot of the problems they used to have. Carrera especially. Like, for one thing, everybody will rag on Carrera for having heavy slot cars. Like, oh, it's too heavy. They're slower. Here's the thing, though. They don't break. Like, they take a lot of abuse. I'm not saying they're invincible. Like, don't run them off the table. Get some catch fence. But I'm just saying, compare the slot cars of old. They could take a beating. They're well protected. And they're easy to fix. And, the digital system itself really took care of a lot of problems. Like, rigging together slot car timers and everything was pretty tough. Now, all you do is buy an app connect.
But then there's also just the space. You don't need as much space to run with the digital now, right?
Yeah.
Compared to the traditional wooden track that people had for analog. That's just the thing about analog, right?
There was like 8 lanes wide, and there was a giant beast. And, again, things people bring up is how much floor space it used to take up. Oh, it was oppressive. It took up the whole room. If you wanted to make, let's say, an 80-foot slot car track, if you make that in digital, guess what, buddy? You got a 6-foot track in like a much, much smaller space. Sorry, not 6-foot, 6-player track. You have like a 6-player track in a much smaller space because 6 people can just run the 2 rails. You can adjust the speeds of the cars individually so the little kids can play. While you're playing, you don't have to worry about them wiping out. They're just kind of in the way, but they'll do better than some adults. Guys think I'm just talking this up to sell you on things. That's not true. I legitimately looked back and like, oh, people felt like they were getting pushed out. I think the main problem slot cars had was just how much floor space they were taking up. Like, yeah, when they were popular, that was no problem if you're a store. You just have this big thing, you're making money all the time. But all of a sudden, those huge slot car track taking up all that real estate in your store when it's declining in popularity, that's not so good, right? But now it could just be like even like a niche hit right now, and it's not a problem because it doesn't take up much room in a store at all.
But then also a store can be probably smaller in size and still be able to hold all the product they wanted and still provide the experience of slot car racing.
And that's the other thing too, yeah, like store and in home, because in home you could have a good sized track or even a small compact track, because that's another nice benefit of the digital. You can slow them all down to like 30% or something and keep them on a smaller track. And there you go. So you got like a multiplayer. You can have your buddies over, have some brewskis. The track keeps its shape, so you can just take it apart in chunks. Like, it's just, like the old slot car track had to be taken apart piece by piece. It was all wobbly. It had bad power connection, The nice thing, that's another good thing, is you get the power taps for Carrera, so you don't have to solder anything. I had people come in, oh, I'm going to solder this track together. I'm like, no, please don't. Please don't. Okay, so I'd love to know what your thoughts are on making the slot cars mainstream again. Please leave it in the comments. I'm going to be asking you guys a couple questions, if I can remember, as we do this podcast. So, Amanda, what's one thing we should do when we're trying to make something popular? Like, where should we look? Because this to me is like a fresh hobby. Like, the marketing has just been so poor that the mainstream audience doesn't know what slot car racing even is. Okay, so Amanda can't read my writing. I wrote something for her to say. If you look at what successful companies are doing. So the company I like to look at is 90s Sega. So Sega in the 90s.
The Sega Genesis has blast processing. Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do?
Oh my goodness, I see what you wrote there now.
Okay, yeah. What did Sega do? Because Nintendo's dominating the market. Nobody even knows who Sega is. And this is before Sonic. Okay, Sonic was definitely a factor. But did Sega do?
Can you tell me? Because I don't know.
Okay.
I was just a little baby.
They were, shut up. They were super aggressive. They're trying to make me feel old. They were super aggressive. And that's how I am, right? Like, I'm like, okay. Compare slot cars to RC racing. Like, what's the biggest pain? It's RC racing. You have to do all that stupid maintenance. Slot cars is like a similar experience with a lot less work. I actually way prefer slot car racing, for the record, because you got the timer built in, as I said. But for the digital. Whereas I found, oh my gosh, those stupid RC cars, like I was always having to do maintenance on it all the time. At slot car racing, you just use some lubricant. Most of the time, you just use lubricant. Your motor brakes in the slot cars, I don't have to solder anything. Well, it's Carrera brand, you don't have to solder anything. You just disconnect it, an old motor, plug in the new one.
And clean it.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, we need to be a little bit more aggressive here. And I think another thing we should be doing is looking at the market in general. Because if there's one thing, I'm not throwing shade at anybody particular, okay? But I had my heart broken recently.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
Because I heard these major slot car manufacturers call the 1/32 scale a toy. I'm like, hey, is this a toy? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, oh, why are we doing this? You and I had this good thing going with educating people, and we were saying toy grade and hobby grade track. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, look, the 1/32 and the 1/24, that's hobby grade. The lower scales are like toy grade. Now, I do think that HO, if you're talking about like AFX, that track could be argued as hobby grade. I just don't like HO racing, but I'll say, fine. You know what, HO racers, I'm going to give you a bone here. The AFX is also hobby grade. Although, like I said, I'm not a fan of blinking and losing my slot car. This is why I think that this is such a big deal about the whole toy grade thing, okay? We can't be calling our slot cars toys. We need to call the large ones the hobby grade, because look at the action figure market. Look at Power Rangers. Look at He-Man. They're not going after the kids anymore. They are selling the exact same thing. They updated it. They updated the look, make it more modern and everything. But they admit they're going after the adult collector. They put collector's edition or something on the side of the box. And they're meant for you to just buy it as an adult and keep it in your home.
Interesting. I guess I'm not surprised, considering when we went to Japan, I bought my Sailor Moon figures. They're not toys, they're collector items.
Yeah, and I think that people like our age understand that. If somebody says like, oh, I have an action figure collection of like X-Men, you go in the room and it's like all in box, it's kind of like a museum, like that's something respectable. It's nothing, like you don't think they're collecting children's toys at that point. You know what I mean?
I guess some people might think.
Well, so. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's different exceptions. I don't understand why Traxxas gets away with all this crap. Like, they have probably some of the best marketing I've ever seen, where a Traxxas is like an adult thing. Like, oh, they're playing with Traxxas. Like, they're playing with this awesome big hobby toy. And then I have these 1/24 slot cars, and people are like, oh, that's a children's toy. I'm like, really? Because the Traxxas is like, the 1/24s are not that much smaller than the smaller grade Traxxas, right? Like the smaller scale Traxxas. So Traxxas usually has larger scales, but they do carry smaller scales RCs. And when people see those RCs flying super fast, like the small ones, like you and I used to race the smaller RCs, people still recognize that as a hobby. They did not expect me to hand that to my 5-year-old.
Right.
This is something, as slot car racers, I would like us as a community to just start setting in stone, okay? I'm not saying you need to trash anybody's videos. You don't need to track the video down I'm talking about. But you do need to start saying, hey, listen, this is my hobby grade track. This isn't the Carrera Go system that's a kid grade. This is the adult grade, hobby grade track. And to me, it really is. Because like I said, Traxxas gets to get away with that. The RC market's getting away with that. I don't see why the slot car market's going like on this crusade. Like we're on this crusade of calling it a toy. What's the point? As a marketing person, what would be the point of that? Why are we trying to fight the system here? We should be looking at this system. We should be integrating this hobby into the rest of the hobby grade systems. We should be like going with the RC racers and stuff. You know what I mean? So the 1/32nd scale, higher grade track hobby. Okay, perfect. I've repeated myself 3 times. We could just move on from that point now. And, here's another thing. I actually like Scalextric's marketing a lot. It's just a shame that the company's been such a mess, because in terms of the marketing, like I find they have like a lot of hip, cool editing in their videos. There's a lot of pop and stuff.
Okay.
It seems like they're appealing to a younger generation, because here's the problem. I'm going to give you guys some inside scoop, some inside data here. So if you're listening to this, there's a good chance you're 55 or older and male. Interestingly, on Facebook, if we do an advertisement, the advertisement is more likely to appeal to, can you guess?
55 and older and
You
male?
were incorrect.
No.
It is people our age. You're looking
Oh.
at about 30 to 40. You get a fair amount with 50. Well, I wouldn't say 50, like 40. Sorry, like 45. So I'd say about 30 for sure. Maybe like 27, 28 to 45 reaches the most people in terms of the age groups for slot car Facebook advertisements.
Is that strictly slot car, or is it just social media?
It's Sunday slot cars. That's my own numbers, internal data that I get from Facebook and YouTube. People our age, like Amanda and I's age, I should say, sorry, are more likely to kind of look at the product and give it like some research. But it's the older, already established slot car racers that are going to be digesting the YouTube content. So most people are just going to kind of look at it and either buy it or not. But they're not really going to invest too much more time into it. Now, I think that that's a bit of a problem. Twofold, I actually don't like either one of those stats. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay. Tell me why.
All right, guys. So I'm going to let you into some more marketing training I got. Because I'm actually graduated from...
I'm just media program.
No, it wasn't media. Wrong. I got my business credential in high school. Did you forget that? Which was the college equivalent of a business course.
Whatever.
Amanda's salty. I'm so much more educated than her, so don't feel bad, guys.
Oh, shove it.
So the reason why Carrera Scalextric SCX is so desperate to kind of go after the families and go for the toy market is because the most lucrative market are women and children. For men, there's literally like 5 different subcategories of men that you can appeal to. And that sucks. As a marketer, I can tell you that sucks because you swing and you miss. You know what I mean? Whereas women generally, sorry to tell you girls, a lot of you are the same for marketing, for like appealing to women. It's just, rah, rah, woman, hear me roar, or something for the family. Believe it or not, the two are actually quite similar for the woman kind of thing. Because like a lot of moms do want to be adventurous and, out with the fam or out by themselves, It's just, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not going to I'm going to try to stay on topic. The point is that Carrera wants to go after that lucrative child market. And as a parent, I got to tell you, if we didn't know nothing about slot cars and you're offered the $80 Carrera Go set or a $220 Carrera Evolution set, which one are you buying for your kid?
Probably the $80 one.
That's not even going to be a question. You don't even know. Like, what is this? I can get the bigger slot cars, which look cooler, or I can get the smaller ones that are cheaper. Why would I ever get the bigger ones? As far as I know, the big ones and the small ones feel and drive the same. It's just there's the size difference. And that's, as we know, not the case. And why is that not? Why have we not known that? Because of poor marketing. Okay, I'm going to take a breath here. And I got to, gather my thoughts here a little bit here. Thankfully, with the magic of editing, I'll speed this part up. We need to be going after the teenage and young adult market. If you guys think, not you guys, but I'm talking about the companies. If the companies, if anybody's listening to this, if you think you're going to be getting parents and hitting the mainstream with the large scale slot cars when you're charging $300, that's a pipe dream. It's just not going to happen. So we need to be going after older audiences for our more expensive sets.
Right. I agree.
So we need to start targeting our marketing towards older audiences. Hence, I'm talking about 90s Sega. Before, video games used to be just a child's thing. They were just something for kids to play. It was Sega who brought in all the sports games. Sonic the Hedgehog, again, you might not realize it with modern Sonic, but with old-fashioned Sonic, he had an attitude for a reason. They were attempting to make him more hip and cool than Mario. Sega did really great in the 90s for their marketing. And I really, like I said, I've really been trying to base the slot cars on Sega's marketing because a lot of the slot cars have that cool modern edge. You know what I mean? Like look at the Ferrari FXX or Ferrari Zone or whatever they're called, the FFX cars. They got that sleek, slender look, but they look aggressive. They got a cool look to them. It's already built in. To me, it's like we have all the puzzle pieces here for major success for the mainstream, and we just have to find the right marketing to put that puzzle together.
We need to find the glue.
Okay, how does that make any sense? That made no sense. All right, so lastly, I'm just going to say this. The slot car sales are still up. Like, yes, we're reaching a broader audience, and that's great. I do love that. There was a point in time early this year, where we had no slot car stuff in stock for the larger digital scales. Like, we're out of digital stuff completely. Yeah, we were out of the 132 and 124 sets.
Oh, yes, the sets, yes.
Which, pretty rough. Pretty rough when that's what we rely on. But I do wish that we were able to get this the way it was before, where everybody would have the slot car tracks. It was just a regular thing. It was like going to the bowling alley. And I think that you could do that again. I don't see why that experience can't be replicated. A lot of the problems are fixed. The slot cars are more easier to use. Tuning up your slot cars a lot easier. Like you can just swap out Carrera motors even.
Right, and then a lot cheaper for someone just to buy a car than it is to have it at home sometimes, right? Depending on people's.
Exactly. Like there's just a lot of there's a lot of pros here. But people are wanting to get more social after the virus, looking for new hobbies. It's just the right time. I wish the Carrera and other slot car companies would be a lot more aggressive going after an older market. Like just see the writing on the wall, see what you have, take a look at the other marketing of other successful companies. I'm looking at Traxxas. How do they do that? What age group are they going after? We should start going after that age group. All right. So I guess that is the end of this podcast. Did you have fun doing this podcast?
I had to sit back a few times because how loud you got.
I don't know why you're trying to calm me down. If I said anything that bad in the podcast, I can just edit it out.
No, it had nothing to do with what you were saying. It was the volume. I had to sit back. My ears were hurting.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Well, now you know how I feel. No, the microphone's picking that up. That's abuse.
I meant for it to hear.
Oh, that's great. That's a good excuse, officer. So remember, if you want to keep these kind of stuff going, to support us at Sunday-slot-cars.square.site, buy some things, especially digital sets. I mean, we love it when you guys buy our digital sets. Subscribe to us
on YouTube, Facebook, Instasham.
I'm used to keep up with Instasham. And we will talk to you later. Let us know if you like the podcast. I made it to the end. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Billy sucks.